This is from Liam in the UK. I think I used to believe I was invincible, until 1 second proved me wrong. But before all that, let me tell you how it started. I grew up in a small town in Wales. We didn't have much, but we had space, fields, mud, fences to jump over, rooftops I wasn't supposed to climb. Mum used to joke I was born sprinting. Dad, he built me a backyard obstacle course just to keep me off the furniture. When I was 6, my dad handed me a rugby ball. That was it. Game over. There was something about the way it thudded when it hit the ground. The way your whole body had to move just to hold on to it. I finally had something to chase that chased me back. Rugby became more than just a game. It gave a direction from my chaotic life. School didn't make much sense to me, but that field was where I understood everything. I wasn't the smartest, but I could tackle a tree if you asked me to. I almost quit once, after we lost a match 38-0. I sat in the locker room, humiliated. My teammates looked away. Coach didn't give a speech. He just handed me the ball and said, "See you Tuesday." That silence stuck with me more than any pep talk. By 16, I was trying out for national youth teams. The night before my first big game, I couldn't sleep. Just lay there, picturing everything going wrong. When I finally walked onto that pitch, I spotted my parents in the crowd. Dad's jaw was clenched like usual, his version of a standing ovation, and I played like my life depended on it. Things took off fast after that. Signed to a pro team by 19. Travel, matches, interviews, group chats with my boys. Life felt like a movie I didn't want to pause. I thought, this is it. I've made it. And then one dive, 1 second, and everything changed. It was supposed to be just another night off. We were celebrating a teammate's birthday. Music, barbecue, people everywhere. There was a pool. Nothing fancy. I dove in, thinking it was deeper than it was. The moment my head hit the bottom, time folded in on itself. I didn't hear a crack. I just felt floaty. I remember people yelling, someone pulling me up, and then black. Next thing I knew, I was flat on a hospital bed, tubes in my mouth, something tight around my neck. I tried to move my hand. Nothing. Tried to scream. Nothing came out. The doctor was calm. I wasn't. He said the words like they were printed on a script. Your spine was severely damaged. You might not walk again. And I just blinked at him like he was talking to someone else. I laughed, a tiny broken sound, until I realized no one else was laughing. The first time someone tried to feed me, I nearly cried. It was porridge. I hated porridge, but that wasn't why. I couldn't lift the spoon, couldn't even scratch my own nose. Every tiny thing I'd taken for granted was now someone else's job, and I hated that more than anything. My mom tried to stay strong, brought me books I didn't read. My dad barely said a word, just sat there like a statue. But I could see it in their faces. Grief, fear, guilt. Like they were mourning the son they had last week. Friends came at first. Teammates, old classmates. They brought snacks, talked about rugby, tried to keep it light. And then they stopped. One by one, they stopped showing up. The group chat went quiet. Birthdays came and went. The worst day? Rehab. Week 2. The therapist asked me to try sitting upright. I got halfway there and passed out cold. Woke up to cold sweat, nausea, and an overwhelming sense of failure. I told her, this is pointless. She just said, then we'll try again tomorrow. A few days later, she said something that stuck. You don't need to climb a mountain. You just need to sit up. I thought she was mocking me, but the way she said it, calm, sure, it made me angry enough to try again. And that anger? It moved me. Literally. That night, I set one goal. Stay sitting up for 5 minutes without blacking out. It wasn't heroic. I was drenched in sweat and shaking the whole time, but I did it. I looked around the room like I'd just won gold at the Paralympics. It was 5 minutes of nothing, and it meant everything. A week later, I wiggled my toe. Just a little flick, like a secret handshake between me and my body. I stared at it like it had come back from the dead. For the first time in weeks, I let myself believe, maybe this isn't the end. By the way, about 1 in 50 people in the UK live with a form of paralysis. But what hits harder is emotional isolation. Over half report losing close relationships after injury. If you're grieving that too, you're not alone. It doesn't make you broken. It just means your world got quieter. But it won't stay that way forever. After that toe wiggle, progress came slow but steady. First came sitting without help. Then transferring to a wheelchair without tipping over. I fell a lot. The nurses clapped the first time I made it into the chair on my own. They didn't see the tears in my lap. One morning, they wheeled me outside. Cold wind, muddy grass, a hill that looked way too ambitious. But I asked to try it. The mud sucked at my wheels. I swore like a sailor. And I laughed, for the first time in weeks. I was freezing and alive. Then came the moment I regret most. My dad brought me my old boots. I hadn't worn them in months. He just set them down on the windowsill. Probably thought it'd motivate me. Instead, I snapped, told him to take them and leave. He didn't say a word, just picked them up and nodded. That night I opened a message from an old teammate. Still the worst pass in club history, he wrote. Miss seeing you. I laughed through tears. I forgot what it felt like, to be missed and mocked in the same breath. It reminded me I wasn't entirely gone. I started thinking about goals again. Not trophies, just something. I told my therapist I wanted to climb a mountain someday. She didn't laugh, just wrote it down on her clipboard, like it was completely reasonable. That's when I realized, maybe I didn't need to walk normally to stand tall. The first hike wasn't majestic. It was short, mostly flat, and I was on all kinds of gear and straps. I fell twice. But I made it to the top, and when I looked out over the trees, I started crying so hard I couldn't breathe. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. I started training harder. Resistance bands, parallel bars, hydro workouts. My arms got stronger. My back stopped screaming at me. I still needed braces for walking, but the point was, I was walking. Lopsided, slow, ridiculous, but moving forward. Then came a different kind of challenge. A local community event asked me to speak. I nearly said no, but I did it. Shaky hands, dry mouth, completely unprepared. I forgot half of what I wanted to say. Still got a standing ovation. After that, I started thinking bigger. What if other people could get that same spark, that tiny flicker of maybe? So I built something. Started a non-profit that helps people recovering from spinal injuries, not just physically, but emotionally. A place for people who've heard, "You'll never," and still want to try. A few months later, I visited a guy in hospital. Young, quiet, wouldn't look at me. I told him the truth. I was you. Angry, ashamed, tired of being touched by strangers. He didn't smile, didn't talk, but he looked at me. Really looked. And that's when I knew it was worth it. Then came the day. A real mountain. Not a metaphor, not a hiking trail, but the kind with wind that cuts your breath short and rocks that laugh at your balance. I had braces on both legs, walking poles. Every step hurt, but I didn't stop. And when I stood at the top, it was like gravity forgave me. A few weeks later, I went on national TV to share my story. It was surreal. Lights, cameras, makeup. My mom watched from her flat. She called me after, sobbing. Not because I walked, but because in her words, you sounded like you again. Sometime later, I returned to the place where it all changed. The pool. I stood at the edge. No crowd, no cameras. Just me. The water looked calm, not cruel. And I didn't feel anger or fear. Just peace. Like I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Not long ago, I had a dream. In it, I was running. Fast, effortless, shirt soaked in sweat. I woke up with my legs tangled in the sheets. But instead of sadness, I smiled. Because I didn't miss the dream. I just appreciated the fact that I could still move forward. Well, I want you to know, I lost the game. The body, the easy path. But I found purpose. I found people. And somehow, I found myself. So if you're staring at your own mountain right now, don't wait for the perfect day. Just take one step. I'll meet you at the top. I don't know where you are in your story right now. Maybe you feel stuck, forgotten, like your body or your life isn't yours anymore. But I promise you, even the smallest movement counts. So if this hits something in you, say it out loud. Leave a comment, share your story. And if you want more stories like this, the real kind, subscribe. You're not alone in this climb.